Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. It's been a few months since CD Projekt Red dropped Cyberpunk 2077, which was one of the most hyped up games that I've ever seen personally. I mean, this is coming from the studio that brought us one of the best RPGs ever made, The Witcher, so there was some high expectations with Cyberpunk. CD Projekt promised this amazing game, but at launch it was just absolutely riddled with bugs, and they have since set forth on a journey to fixing Cyberpunk's problems. However, it looks like CD Projekt has some huge plans going forward. We're talking more Witcher games, more Cyberpunk, big expansions, new studios, and more. They dropped a ton of news today, and if you like either The Witcher or Cyberpunk, you're going to want to stay tuned for this one. Also, PlayStation is expanding one of the most talented studios, and this one I find to be fantastic news, and I'll tell you exactly why here in just a bit. First though, let's go over some of the quick news, starting off with what originally looked like a very promising 3D platformer, Balan Wonderworld. The first time I saw Balan Wonderworld, I thought it looked really good. I think it has a pleasing art style, and it has two of the original Sonic the Hedgehog creators working on this new IP. Yuji Naka and Naoto Oshima. So on paper it sounded really good, or at least until fans got their hands on the demo and played it themselves. Unfortunately, a lot of people were left very disappointed, and even though much of the community were voicing their opinions against releasing it as is, Square Enix decided to drop it anyways. It did come with a day one patch, so there is that, but it doesn't look like it fixed all of its problems, and it really reflects within its reviews. As of this recording, Balan Wonderworld sits at a 58 overall score on Metacritic. Yeah, that's typically not what you want to see. So far, only one outlet has given it a positive review, and you know, I just find this to be so deflating as a fan of the genre. I was really hoping Balan Wonderworld would turn out to be a great 3D platformer, as I truly believe we don't get enough good games in this genre. It originally seemed like a promising game, but at the same time, it almost feels like Square Enix didn't have a lot of confidence in its release after that demo. They knew it had some major flaws, they didn't send out review copies, and they just kind of released it as is, like they were throwing in the towel. They could have chosen to delay it, but we've known all along this was Square Enix giving Yuji Naka kind of a prove-it deal. They allowed him this one chance to do a 3D platformer and prove himself, and considering it probably won't meet expectations, they likely will not invest in another game like this anytime soon from Yuji Naka. Best case scenario is maybe they will work on it to improve its problems over time, and even then, we'll see. I will ask you though, I don't think review scores are the be-all end-all, so let me know in the comments below if you're enjoying this game, or did critics get this one right? Let me know in the comments below. Moving on though, here's some good news for fans of 3D platformers and Crash Bandicoot. Now, Crash 4 was legitimately one of my favorite games that released in 2020. It was an absolutely amazing game and a great follow-up to the original trilogy. I really hope Activision continues to invest in the Crash franchise going forward, because it's just too good to put it on hold for decades again. The thing is, Crash 4 has not been selling as well as the Crash Insane trilogy, and this has led to some concern among fans. Some do worry it's not successful enough for Activision. Well, the good news is that Crash 4 has been climbing the charts in the United States for several different reasons. As Matt Piscatella pointed out on Twitter, Crash 4 has been climbing the charts thanks to its recent Switch release, digital promotions, and the release of Crash Bandicoot on the Run for mobile devices. I'm sure the Xbox Series and PS5 upgrade has also helped out quite a bit. This mobile release, though, is big. Apparently, its new mobile release has already been downloaded 25 million times. That is insane, and it kind of shows you the importance of expanding IP beyond just the hardcore game market. By giving more recognition to a character or IP, you can then revitalize it and get new customers for your core games. We saw this with The Witcher 3 as well when Netflix released The Witcher series. The Witcher 3 blew up in the months following that release. Tomb Raider is another franchise that's done very well with this. This is also why I keep saying that PlayStation is being very smart by investing into PlayStation Productions, where they're working on 10 PlayStation-related IP for movies and shows, including Uncharted, The Last of Us, and Ghost of Tsushima. That does broaden recognition, and you're seeing that once again with Crash Bandicoot on mobile devices. Now, hopefully Crash 4 continues to do well, because it definitely deserves to be successful. Seriously, if you haven't played Crash 4 yet, go check that game out. Next up, Xbox revealed April's lineup for Xbox games with gold, and, well, this is a month. I'm not going to say it's a good month, but there are some free games here if you are an Xbox Live Gold subscriber. So let's check out what they're giving away in April. You have Vikings Wolf of Midgard, Truck Racing Championship, Dark Void, and Hardcore Uprising. Now, I'm not going to say these games are bad or anything like that because, truthfully, I've never played any of these games. Maybe there are some good games here that fans will find some enjoyment in. What I will say, though, is that this lineup does not inspire any kind of excitement. I mean, this is kind of typical for Xbox games with gold anymore. It's been a long time since they have consistently produced a good lineup of games, and I think by this point, the main reason to subscribe to Xbox Live Gold is for online multiplayer, and not games with gold itself. To be fair, I think it's always kind of been that way, but there has been a steady decline in this service. Meanwhile, Xbox Game Pass has been absolutely amazing, which is clearly the superior subscription on Xbox. You can grab Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which includes Xbox Live Gold, though it is more expensive. Truthfully though, if you were to ask me for a recommendation, I will always say go with Xbox Game Pass, as it really is the best deal in gaming, but unless you play multiplayer games, then I can't say subscribe to Xbox Live Gold. It just doesn't have a lot to offer outside of online multiplayer for games that are not free to play. Let's talk about PlayStation though, as we have a few PlayStation related topics, and this first one is really good news in my opinion. In an interview with Kotaku, Media Molecule revealed that they've been on a big recruitment drive and that Sony has been investing in the studio and allowing them to really grow. Now, the reason this is such great news is because they are such a talented and creative team. They were the creators of Little Big Planet, which I absolutely adore. Little Big Planet has now become a staple IP in the PlayStation catalog, and even the PlayStation 5 launched with a new Little Big Planet game. Now, Sackboy: A Big Adventure was instead developed by Sumo Digital, but that goes to show you what Sony thinks of that IP. They're licensing it out while Media Molecule works on other games. They also made Tearaway and, most recently, Dreams. Both of these, again, were very high-quality games, though in Dreams' case, it didn't have the success that maybe some had hoped for. It took them a long time to develop Dreams for the PS4, and even though it turned out to be an incredible creation tool, it's been a little hard to market. And for that reason, there have been some concerns that maybe PlayStation would shut down the studio as a whole, with them not having a lot of success during the PS4 generation. PlayStation has shut down several studios over the last 5 years, including Guerrilla Cambridge, Evolution Studios, and Manchester Studios, and some thought maybe the talented Media Molecule would be next. That's the thing though, they are incredibly talented and very creative, and I think Sony knows that. That's why they've ultimately decided to invest in their studio and let them do what they do. I mean, we can say their games maybe haven't really sold the most, but what we can't say is that's because they don't make good games. In fact, they make amazing games, and with Sony investing more into them, we surely will see more great games come from them in the future. They, however, are still working on Dreams. I'm not sure if they're working on a second project or not as of this moment. I really hope they are, but as for Dreams, what they should probably do with that game is just bring it to PC and also release it into PlayStation Plus. That would be a major deal for the Dreams community, but we'll see what all happens with that. And speaking of PlayStation, if you're a fan of virtual reality gaming, you'll be happy to know that PSVR 2 got one of its first confirmed VR titles, and it's a big one. If you play VR on PC at all, you'll probably recognize the competitive VR shooter Pavlov. This is one of the most popular competitive VR titles on the PC side of things, and this is a big release for PlayStation VR 2. The founder of Bankrupt Games, the studio behind Pavlov, mentioned that the original PSVR doesn't have the fidelity for Pavlov, but that's all about to change with PSVR 2.0. Now, for PlayStation VR fans who want a fun competitive experience, has generally played Firewall Zero Hour, which is great as well. I have that game and play it with the PlayStation aim controller, and it feels really nice, but now you should have another option with Pavlov, and that's always great to see, especially considering it's a high-quality VR game. At the very least, it sounds like PSVR 2 already has a must-own title for fans of VR, and that's exciting on its own. On to our last topic though, CD Projekt Red dropped a ton of news today. There's a lot to go over here, but we'll start off with the latest patch for Cyberpunk 2077. Now, I know CD Projekt Red has been under scrutiny in the last few months for the broken release of Cyberpunk, and rightfully so. That game clearly was not ready for release, and that's even more evident with their latest patch. They did just release a new update that is a massive 40 gigabytes on Xbox, 44 gigs on PS4, and then 30 on the PC. Yeah, this is a huge update, and hopefully it fixes much of its problems. The truth is, I played this game when it first launched, and it's a good game outside of its bugs. I was lucky enough not to run into any kind of major problems, and the overall game itself was good. It's just for some people, they did have major issues, unfortunately, and hopefully this patch will fix those problems fans had before. If you've been waiting to play this game though, now might be a good time to jump in. You can still wait though if you want. They will continue to work on this game and make it even better over time, and it's also coming to the PS5 and Xbox Series at some point. I imagine that will be treated as a definitive release, and you can always wait for that if you want. CD Projekt Red wasn't quite done there though. Yes, in the last few months, the company has been under heat from fans and investors alike, but this has not stopped CD Projekt Red from acquiring a new studio, Digitalscape, and they created a whole new studio in Vancouver. Yeah, they have majorly expanded here. These new studios are more of support-related studios that will expand on their games, whether that be with multiplayer or something else. What we do know though is that these studios were brought in because CD Projekt Red has some huge plans going forward. They posted a 25-minute strategy update detailing some of their plans going forward, and this is exciting. Alright, so what they're doing and why they need so many studios is because they want to work on parallel IP. Yes, that's right. Starting next year, CD Projekt Red plans to work on multiple AAA games and expansions simultaneously. You're going to see CD Projekt Red expand on their popular universes such as The Witcher and Cyberpunk. We might see some new games here, DLC, film-related projects, and the list goes on. They want to be able to support two franchises at once. As a fan of The Witcher, I like that. They also mentioned that their primary focus is still on single-player games, which is what you want to hear from a studio like this, but they're also looking to do some multiplayer as well. Now that's where their new studios come in, as they can help out with things like that. They could work on multiplayer while CD Projekt Red focuses on single-player. I think that's a pretty good approach. If you're a fan of CD Projekt Red though, we should be hearing a lot from them this generation, and that starts even this year. Their roadmap for 2021 reveals more patches for Cyberpunk, free DLCs, and a next generation update. And then on the Witcher side of things, you have The Witcher Monster Slayer coming out later in 2021. That's a free-to-play augmented reality game. You also have further development of Gwent, and then the big one, The Witcher 3 will be getting a next generation update in the second half of 2021. Now, while I think Cyberpunk is good and all, The Witcher 3 is a masterpiece. It's one of the best RPGs ever made, and it's really cool to see it get a next-generation update to keep it fresh and viable for a whole new generation of games. But yeah, CD Projekt Red has a lot planned, and we should be hearing a lot from them. Now, from the sounds of it, they're going to wait a little closer to release before marketing these games, which shows they have maybe learned something from their release with Cyberpunk. I just hope their next games has a much smoother launch. Let me know though, are you excited to see what they're working on next? I know I definitely am. Before we go though, let's take a look at the poll of the day. PlayStation did confirm yesterday that they will in fact be shutting down the PS3, PSP, and Vita store in 2021. A lot of fans are very upset about this, especially with Jim Ryan in specific, who doesn't seem to like older games. But thankfully, Sony is allowing everybody to re-download their purchased games even after each store shuts down. That is great to hear, so with that in mind, I asked you all if you are going to buy any digital game for the PS3, PSP, or Vita before they shut down their stores in 2021. And 77% of you said no. In the comments, there were several reasons as to why. Frustration being one of those. Some of you want to go physical instead for obvious reasons. Game prices could increase with this digital store closing, but some of you all mentioned just emulation instead. For me, I absolutely am buying some games digitally, especially on the Vita. That's the one that really affects me the most. It's personally one of my favorite consoles ever made, and I hate that they're taking its store away. I know it wasn't necessarily the most successful console in the world, but it's not that old, and some games were still being developed for it. I mean, I guess it's fitting though. PlayStation never really supported the Vita the way it deserved. However, I will be going back to download some games that I missed, as well as some PSP and PlayStation 1 games. It surprisingly got a large library for a console that wasn't a resounding success, and its games still look great today. If you can find a Vita though, right now is the perfect time to get one before game prices really start to go up, because after those digital stores goes away, yeah, physical games are going to rise in price. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.